Welcome to Ripley Greer Studios and our February membership meeting. Avenue and in the theater district area. These are rehearsal spaces and audition spaces and dance class spaces and things like that. And so thank you to Bob and Harvey for finding us this space for tonight. But we don't have an actual speaker from the venue, so we're actually going to move along to our next item on the agenda, which is a brand new industry partner, Sam Srivastava. I hope I said that properly, from Photospot. He was actually at the job fair in November and became an industry partner shortly after that. So we'll turn it over to Sam to, go ahead, Sam, and then when I come back, I'll tell you a little bit about the rules of the road. So please, Sam, go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. My actual name is Vaibhav. You can call me Sam. I'm the founder of Photospot. It's an AI-based travel planner. We are very excited to be part of the Guides Association. Before I talk about Photospot and how you can, we are looking forward to working with you all, let me just take 1 minute to talk about something which has been in news quite a lot, the big boogeyman called AI. I have been working in AI for about last 15 years in San Francisco, and last 3 to 4 years have been the most, I would say, exciting or scary time, whichever side you are on. Yeah. Most of the news that you will hear about AI is about how AI is going to take over all the jobs. This is what you won't hear very often in the news. AI has the power to make human expertise available to more people. Let me give you an example. When I go to my doctor always starts by asking me, where is the problem? What AI can do is actually prepare an initial report for the doctor so that my doctor doesn't have to start from the scratch asking all the basic questions. And this is where AI can really make human expertise much more affordable and efficient so that more people can actually avail that. This is what we are trying to do in travel. Now, if you have traveled recently, you know that talking to someone who is local, who is an expert, can be game-changing for you, right? They have a lot of local insight and everything. Then why don't more people do that? Why don't more people work with local experts? We did some research, and there are 3 main reasons why people don't usually work with local experts. The first one is, of course, the price. It's out of budget for a lot of people. Second thing is, most people think they can find whatever information they need online, like 80 to 90% of the information. And third thing which people don't realize is, people actually like planning their travel. They like working through different options, playing around with the options and seeing how, get the joy out of that, basically. So this is what we asked at Photospot. Why can't we bring the best of both the worlds together? On one hand, we have efficiency and cost effectiveness of AI, and on the other hand, we have human experts to bring in accuracy, personalization, and a more warm experience. That's what we have just launched at Photospot. So at Photospot, our users can plan their entire itinerary using an AI. It takes like 10 seconds for you to plan an itinerary for any location. Then they have the option to talk to a local expert or a local guide for a paid consultation. We just launched it. We have a few guys that we are working with, and we are looking to expand that service in New York City. So what does this mean for tour guides? Basically, where can you work with us? First of all, it enables you to have an extra income. Let's say if you have some time in between your tours, you can actually take a paid consultation call, help someone plan their trip, and make their life better. The second thing which was an unrealized benefit that we realized, when people talk to a local tour guide before actually visiting here, the chance of them converting into your client becomes much higher, right? Otherwise, they're just going to Writer or other services looking at the reviews. But if they actually talk to you in the call beforehand, the chances that they will actually want to work with you when they visit here significantly increases. So this is where we are really hoping to work with the Guides Associates. We want to bring on board more guides on our platform. All that you have to do is, I'll share my contact, just contact us, and just tell us if you're available. If you have a few hours available in the week, you can take a call with someone who is coming to New York City, get paid for it, and maybe they can become your client. On the user side, we have heard really, really powerful stories. People said that they actually, a lot of information they found online was irrelevant or wrong. and it messed up with their trip. So talking to someone who's a local tour guide like you really saved their trip. So they're getting a lot of benefit out of that. So once again, I'm Vaibhav, I'm the founder of Photospot. Really looking forward to combine the power of AI and your local expertise to make sure that everyone has a wonderful trip in New York City. Thank you so much.
So we definitely have time for a few questions, if that's okay, Sam.
Yeah.
So I'll call on people. So, and please remember, when you have a question, stand up and identify yourself. So, Cindy.
Cindy, thank you, you identified.
First and last name. The idea is people get to know who you are.
I
Yes.
think now everybody knows. Okay, so thank you, Bill. My question is, what is your compensation or commission plan? How does it work money-wise?
So it's a flat commission right now. We are adjusting the price, but right now where we have started is close to $30 to $40 for half an hour call. So what we have figured out is that most people are able to get their questions answered in half an hour. So it's going to be half an hour paid call, and you get between $30 to $40 for that, basically.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
keep whatever, but at least we get for the.
We are not keeping any commission right now. We are passing on everything to you. For us, the most important thing is for now to enable this business, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Jared, then AJ after that.
Hi, I'm Jared Goldstein. What if I don't know the answer to a question?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. So I took a call where someone asked me about one of the sports event. I'm not a big sports person. I had no answer to that. I just told them I'll get back to you, and I found the answer and later reached out to them. So it's perfectly fine. But what you will see is most of the questions are pretty basic. Like, should I take the subway or not? Does the subway go to this location where I'm going? Like, if you're new to the city, you have all those very small questions, and that's the kind of questions that we usually get. Yeah.
Okay. AJ.
Good evening, Sam. AJ
Hi.
Stevens here. Quick curiosity. When it comes to AI, how is the editorial aspect about it? Because, for better or for worse, whether it's human or AI, does make mistakes, and is there ways to correct it through an editorial lens?
I didn't get the last part. Is there a way to correct?
Correct the mistake through an editorial lens. Is there someone who can kind of double check the work?
Yeah, so this is where the service is so helpful, because you're right. AI makes a lot of mistakes. A lot of time the information is outdated. What you get from AI, one of the worst scenario that AI planned for me was it asked me to get a heavy lunch right before a hike, which I'm pretty sure if you are doing a planning for something, so yeah, those are the kind of mistakes. Like, it's not the factual errors, it's more about understanding things that impact us when we travel. That's what we're seeing. And this is where this service is so helpful. Like, you can tell people that, hey, if you're taking a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, please don't have a big pastrami sandwich before that. So this is, yeah, it's both the factual errors as well as those kind of soft errors. I think that's where this service will be very useful.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Yeah, hi, Rose Maloney, how are you?
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. One of the things you've talked a lot about some of the data that is behind here about alert calls and clients.
Yes.
Do you have a report? I mean, I don't need you to talk through it down, we have nearly enough time, but I'd love to see the underlying data on that. Is that something you can share with anybody?
I cannot share specifically for specific people who got the call, but I can share you, the number I can share you is roughly 50 to 60% people convert into
And how are you capturing that? Just because people say I did a call and I got.
Yeah, because we are, the sample that we have is pretty small, so the tour guides reach out to us and tell us that, hey, we actually ended up working with this person, so that's how we get the number, basically. But we don't track any offline conversations.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Garrett.
Hi, Garrett.
Last name.
Dennis. Okay. How are the calls routed? Are you giving out our numbers, or are they coming through you to us, or, are you giving out our numbers to random people?
No, so we are not giving the random number. Once the user actually makes the payment, we generate a Google Meets call, which will be like a video call link. We pass on that link to you and to the user, and we tell you that at this time the user will be online, so you can just click on the link and go online at that
Okay.
time.
Jared again.
Hi, Jared Goldstein. How do we get paid?
We pass on the payment to you, like as soon as the call is over. Right now we are supporting Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle transfer. Bank transfer takes a little bit more time, so we recommend if you have one of these payments method, we can transfer them directly after the call.
Any other questions for Sam?
Yeah, I'll be available after the meeting if you want my contact. Yeah, happy to chat.
That was my question. So obviously your information will be on the industry partner section of the GANYC website. I don't know if it's there yet.
It's there.
It's there.
It's
Okay,
there.
great.
Yeah.
So that's one way to reach Sam, but certainly you can find him after the meeting and get more specific details. So thank you so much for coming in, Sam. Okay, so I forgot to do this at the top of the meeting, but just a couple of quick rules of the road, my friends. So number one, please silence your cell phones. Everybody, please silence your cell phones out of respect to all the speakers tonight. There are 2 colored badges. If you have a green badge, you are a GANYC member, and you can speak and address the meeting and all sorts of things. If you have a red badge on, that means you are a guest, and we're really, really happy to have you here, but we don't let you actually address the meeting with questions or comments. You're welcome to talk to any of us at the end of the meeting, whether it's GANYC leadership or membership, anybody who's a member or anything like that, but that's just as a benefit for our members. And I think that's it. Does that work for everybody? Okay, great. Now, we're gonna dive into my president's report. So first of all, I wanna wish everybody a happy Black History Month and a happy Chinese New Year. GANYC Fat Joy to everybody. Year of the Rats. We want to make any jokes about that. Snakes, sorry. Even more appropriate. Last year was the Year of the Rat. Sorry. Oh, last year was Dragon. Never trust the tour guide. That's Year of the Snake. Year of the Snake. So, okay. So a few things I wanted to go through, my friends. A couple of quick things, and then we're going to get into my report for the NFTGA. You might notice that we have a few other items on the NFTGA on the agenda for people reporting about the NFTGA. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So, first thing, I'm thrilled to announce that as our renewal season came to a close, we actually exceeded our goals. Okay. Most years, this is anecdotal, not scientific, but most years GANYC has had about a 20% attrition rate, which is pretty standard for industry associations like ours. This year, our attrition rate was about 12%. And that is due to the great amount of work done by the membership committee led by Ann McDermott, who I don't think is here, and Jeremy Wilcox, Treasurer Sarah Lyons, Secretary Lee Hallenby, who emailed every member who was about to lapse to try to get them to rejoin, and the rest of the GANYC board who helped to get the word out how important it is to renew the membership. So as of right now, as of today, we have 323 active members in GANYC. We had 359 when we started the renewal period. So to lose about 40 members, we've had a few new members join since then, is absolutely remarkable, and it also speaks to the good work of everybody who volunteers for the association that helps to make us the most dynamic and I think the best local tourist guide association in the United States, if not the world. I'll take questions at the end, Tony, okay? By the way, Michael Dillinger, who's here, right, where's Michael? Oh, there he is. Outgoing NFTGA president. He mentioned to me that between our membership numbers and now our industry partner numbers, our overall numbers were actually bigger than the DC Guild now. Yes. So that's great, and we want to keep that up. No offense to our friends in DC, but we have a lot more people here. We should be bigger than our friends in DC. So, now, next thing I wanted to mention is you might hear about this a little bit more in the Educational Committee report, but they asked me to highlight 2 upcoming online programs that have not gotten a lot of signups yet. One is next week, so it's really important to sign up if you're interested. It's Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m. It's a book talk from the authors of Buried Beneath the City, an archaeological history of New York. The authors are Nan Rothschild and Arthur Bankoff. It's an exclusive online event for GANYC members only. Free, doesn't cost anything. It'll be about a 45-minute presentation with Q&A following. And then the next one is actually Thursday, March 6th at 7:30. Author Lana Holden will present her book titled Catalinje Trico, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, A Life in New Amsterdam, which is a historical fiction book about a young woman who comes to New Amsterdam, and the claim in the book, I was reading about it today, the claim in the book is that she was the only European to be here for the entire run of New Amsterdam's existence as a colony. So both of these are on the GANYC calendar on Wild Apricot, and you sign up directly on Zoom, I think, for both of them, if I look correctly. But it'd be great to have a bigger audience for this, so please, if either one of those are of interest, go sign up and participate in these great events. The Education Committee always puts on such amazing events for us. So thank you, Lisa, and I hope that drives some traffic. Wanted to remind everybody that coming up on February 21st is International Tourist Guide Day. For those of you who are not familiar with this was started by our Worldwide Federation, the WFTGA, back in 1990 to call attention to our industry. Different associations have different programs and plans and things like that to help highlight our industry. For us, it's the Apple Awards, okay? Nothing can be bigger than what we do for the Apple Awards, and it times out within a couple of weeks of International Tourist Guide Day. So that is our main contribution to International Tourist Guide Day, and we'll certainly be sure to promote it with the WFTGA. However, on your own personal social media, if you want to do a shout out for International Tourist Guide Day, show what you do for a living, how your tours are great, use the hashtag ITGD or ITGDay, like the word day, okay? So hashtag ITGD, easy for me to say, or hashtag ITGDay. And you can certainly check out the WFTGA's social media presence to find out what other associations around the world are doing for International Tourist Guide Day as well. And for those of you who don't know, the WFTGA is the World Federation of Tourist Guide Associations. They are the umbrella association for all tourist guide associations all around the world.
Can you just repeat the date?
February 21st. It's the same every year. It's always February 21st, which I think is the founding date of the WFTGA. That's why they picked that date. Okay. So, moving from the World Federation to our National Federation. I was so happy to see so many GANYC members attend the recently completed 2025 NFTGA conference in Philadelphia. If you were there, raise your hand. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to have a few of the attendees give reports a little bit later in the conference, but I wanted to just give you my overall impressions and also my report from the delegates meeting, which I served as GANYC's delegate at the delegates meeting. So first of all, for the items that you see on the agenda, there are going to be 3 this month and 3 next month. We wanted to divide it up just to keep the meeting moving along. But all of these reports are also going to be given in written form, and they're going to be uploaded to the member documents section on GANYC.org. So if you go under members on the website and log in, you'll see one of the links is for member documents. The reports will all be posted there, and they'll probably be more extensive than what our reporters are going to be able to do verbally tonight. So as I said, I represented GANYC at the delegates meeting, and I just want to report back a few different items that came out of that meeting. Right now, NFTGA has 19 associations. The National Federation has 19 associations who are members all across the country. Unfortunately, that's down 2 from what it had been 2 years ago. The Los Angeles Association disbanded, and I believe the Dallas-Fort Worth Association has just kind of gone off the radar, basically. Nobody's really sure what's going on.
They officially withdrew.
They did officially
They said,
withdraw.
take us off the list.
There you go, okay. So right now, in the 19 member associations, there are 1,386 actual members, and I point that out because by being a member of GANYC, you are also a member of the NFTGA and the WFTGA, okay? So when these conferences come up or anything else, you are eligible to register as a member, okay? That means, by my rough math, I got into tour guiding, so I didn't have to do math. We represent close to 22 or 23% of all of the membership in the NFTGA. Okay? So yeah. Of that number, 298 individuals purchased the liability insurance. I do not know exactly how many from GANYC, but I'm sure it was a big support. How many?
104.
104. So we had about a third of all of the signups for the liability insurance. The company changed this year because our previous underwriter, or NFTGA's previous underwriter, dropped the NFTGA. But the new company, they found a new company. It's a 3-year contract. So that means that the liability insurance rates should stay fairly static over the next 3 years, but obviously we'll update that as we get more information each year. The one big difference is this year, this new company does not allow for the proration of insurance premiums. So if you're signing up for your insurance in June, in previous years, the company allowed you to pay half the year's premium. That is not an option anymore, okay? And that probably affects more of our newer incoming members, but I wanted to mention it as well. So you would be paying the $85 fee no matter what time of year you sign up. But it is retroactive once you sign up. So, for the start of the calendar year. Next thing, we are looking forward to collaborating with our friends at associations in DC and Philadelphia and Boston, and very importantly, because she'd be really mad if I didn't mention this, Charleston, South Carolina, for the America 250 celebrations that are going to be coming up in the year 2026. Now, as many of you know, last year we started NYC 400 ad hoc committee chaired by Gary Dennis. But part of the idea of starting that ad hoc committee was that once its functions were done, we could roll the infrastructure right into that being our America 250 planning committee. But there's going to be a lot starting to bubble up, especially led by Jim Carr, the new president of the NFTGA. So we're prepared to get involved in all that. There's going to be a big, I think I mentioned this last year, they're hoping to have the op sale kind of thing even bigger than it was back in 1986 or 1976, or when they, did it for the Statue of Liberty or for the bicentennial. So a lot is probably more being planned right now for that in the NYC 400. I'm sad to say, but things are starting to move as well. I'm talking about in the world at large, not from our perspective. So stay tuned for more on this. Destination Capitol Hill is coming up. It is April 1st this year. For those of you who don't know what that is an event sponsored by the U.S. Travel Association, which is the lobbying organization for the travel industry here in the United States. They set up a day of lobbying on Capitol Hill with congressional members. And basically, there are talking points and you get assignments to go talk to your local representatives. Has anybody in this room participated before? A few of you, okay. So I've never done it myself, but my understanding is that people have reported it's a very interesting and fruitful experience, and you really get to talk to your local reps. So we'll send out some information about that. We do have a little money in the budget to send one person. We're going to give the chair of our government relations committee first crack at that, and then after that we'll see if there's anybody else who wants to attend. You can also register on your own and attend on your own even if you don't get the stipend. We'll send out a blast about that if you want to kind of wander around Capitol Hill for a day. So look around for more of that. Lastly, the NFTGA, as it does every 2 years at its conference, second to last, elected a new executive board. So before we do that, can we have a big round of applause for the 4 years of service that Michael Dillinger put in as president of the NFTGA. We will continue to have a presence on the board though, because the aforementioned Gary Dennis was elected to be a member at large on the board. Jim Carr, who is the outgoing president of the DC Guild, is also a GANYC member, and he's a native New Yorker, so he's very much in tune with what we're doing up here in New York, so we'll have a fair amount of representation on the board, and Jim is really excited to find out about your subway tours and all that kind of stuff there. In case you're wondering, the other executive board members, some of you might have met some of these people at various conferences. Vice President is going to be Mike Pearl from the Rocky Mountain Guides Association. Secretary is Kerry Belisle from San Diego Professional Tour Guide Association. The treasurer will be Brent Salter of the Professional Tour Guide Association of San Diego. And the members at large, in addition to Gary, are Art Chesmore from the Las Vegas Tourist Guide Guild, and Judy Smith from the Association of Philadelphia Tour Guides. And Judy was actually the chair of this past week's conference and did an amazing job. So it's great that she wants to keep volunteering. I personally thought the conference was very well run. We covered a lot of ground, both in terms of the tours that were provided to us, as well as the sessions, and you're going to hear a little bit more about the sessions both this month and next month, but there will be written reports available online as well. And the benefit of attending these conferences, for those of you who have never been, because there's a lot of not the same old faces, but we're hoping to attract some newer members to come down. We had more veteran members come down, even people who hadn't participated in events like this before. It's obviously attending the educational workshops and things like that, but it's also the ability to network with tourist guides from around the country, or if you're thinking about going to Japan next year for the WFTGA convention, which Jeremy's going to report about shortly. There's nothing like trading war stories with your fellow tour guides and finding out how things run in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, and then it also gives you friends to take tours with when you travel as well. So if at all possible, I would highly recommend going to Japan if you can't. 2027, Salt Lake City, Utah. Okay, so a little bit different than Philadelphia, but a beautiful, beautiful venue. Kevin, who's the chair of the Utah Guides Association, I don't know if that's their actual title, is really eager and excited to welcome everybody out to the beautiful mountains and scenery of Salt Lake. So obviously, there are no set dates for that quite yet. It's going to be late January, early February, it already is. We'll keep you all updated as we go along. One other conversation that I wanted to report back to you was, I think we're going to have a report about this. Yes, next month we'll have a report about the presentation done by Visitable, or Visitable, which it might be how you pronounce it, which is an organization that promotes disability inclusion and accessibility information. Their founder, Joe Jameson, talked to me about introducing an online certification course, where if any of you have taken an online CPR training, same kind of thing, but to get a certification that says you are skilled and able to handle differently abled people on your tours and things like that. So once that kind of gets going, that will be a paid service, won't be super expensive. He was talking about pricing, but I don't want to say anything that's inappropriate. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, anything you can add to your bio, your CV, whatever, and certainly helping those of us, those of our tour guests who are differently abled would be really great. So keep that in mind. Keep a lookout for that. We'll be sharing information about that shortly. Okay. And as I mentioned, 2027, Salt Lake City. Couple other quick things. I mentioned this last month, but we want to make sure that everybody remembers to opt into your emails on GANYC.org. Okay, that is how we send out information, whether it's about fan tours or membership meetings or things like visitable courses or the awards or anything else, industry partner votes. You have to opt in. So the easiest way to do that, go into GANYC.org, click on, go into your Wild Apricot page. It's GANYC.wildapricot.org. Click on your name and then click on the button that says email subscriptions. And then click edit profile, and there'll be check boxes to make sure you're opting in to receive emails from GANYC, okay? And they will be coming from GANYC@wildapricot.org, so you want to make sure those are not going to your spam box. If you're having any trouble at all with this, IT is the one to contact. Email it@GANYC.org. That's it@GANYC.org. Last thing, like everyone else, I'm watching what's happening in DC, and I have shock and fear and disbelief. How it affects our industry really remains to be seen, but there are three things that I really want to mention about that right now. Number one, GANYC will continue to work to make sure that the tourism industry remains strong and vital and robust here in New York, despite whatever policies might be coming out of the nation's capital right now. We demonstrated that we can do that. When COVID hit, we sprang into action and really got a lot done for the benefit of all of our members and tour guides all around New York and all around the country. So if there is something that needs to be done, we will certainly rise to that challenge. And that is something that can only be done with the support of the entire membership. Number two, what we do as tour guides, as stewards of the greatest melting pot in the world, has never been more important. Sharing the stories of the diversity that has made New York the greatest city in the world, going all the way back to New Amsterdam, is just one of the small ways that can work to combat the rewriting of history that it seems like the current administration is bent on doing. Okay, so by telling our stories, by highlighting stories of diversity and inclusion here in New York, that's just one small way that you can try to counteract some of the things that might be coming out of DC right now. Remember, people fear what they don't understand. So our job, by contextualizing New York City and opening up new experiences for our guests to the various ethnic pockets of the city, can help people realize they're all cut from the same cloth and really need to be together, okay? Lastly, it's a dark and scary time right now. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it. You certainly don't need to hear that from me. I know I've been in a funk in recent weeks, and I can only imagine how scared and anxious and sad and angry our members who happen to be immigrants are. We do have a certain segment of our population in GANYC who are not born in the United States. So this is where our sense of community really needs to rise up to the top. What do I mean by that? Call a fellow member, check in on people, see how they're doing. Everybody is kind of dealing with various different ways of trying to manage what's happening right now. So meet for coffee, chat online. Just that little bit of human interaction makes a huge amount of difference. GANYC is a fantastic, welcoming, and loving organization. It's one of the things I love most about being a member of GANYC. So let's show it by reaching out and comforting everybody, making sure that everybody feels included and everybody's getting the support that they need and deserve at this time. Come to GANYC events, things like that. And if you happen to be someone who's kind of down in the dumps and you don't feel like talking to anybody, I encourage you to try to break out of that and even just send a text and see what's going on, okay? That human interaction, that's gonna be one of the things that gets us through these tough times. So I just, might not be groundbreaking information, might not be all that noteworthy, but it's definitely worth mentioning at this point. So remember, we are one big family. We'll get through this. Speaking of which, there's one item that did not make it to the agenda, but we want to do this. We are actually going to pass the hat tonight for one of our long-time members. Many of you know Kristen Singleton Ferrari. She's been a really long-time GANYC member. She's been going through a really rough time lately. Some of you might know she had opened her own wine store in Bed-Stuy. She had to close it for financial reasons. She also lost her mother and other members of her family kind of in rapid succession, and it really inhibited her ability to make a living as a tour guide. So as we often do when members are in a downward spot, we pass the hat around. So if you are able to offer something to help Kristen through this difficult time, it would be most appreciated. In addition, and Sarah can help me with this a little bit as well, there will also be an electronic ability to pay through Venmo, PayPal, which will be posted to the GANYC members Facebook page, and will be up for 1 week, okay? It's not up yet, right, I assume?
Yes,
It is up, it's not up yet. So it'll be up shortly. If you'd rather contribute through Venmo, you can certainly do that as well. Now, one thing I do need to mention, okay? Last year, the GANYC board took a close look at what had always been labeled as the Mensch Fund, okay? And we looked back at the history of the Mensch Fund and where it came from, and basically the board decided that at this point, we are no longer going to be matching funds that are done at the pass the hat here. So whatever is contributed here, that is what the member will get. We did this for fiscal responsibility considerations and also for fairness considerations, because there was some discussion about this becoming a bit of a popularity contest and things like that. So, so at the moment, the decision of the board is we are not matching funds for any of these contributions right now. So if you do have the ability to help out Kristen, and certainly as we move forward, hopefully there won't be too many more instances of this, but obviously things do happen. We want to show our support in any way that we can. So, and that is the end of my report. So, I saw, Tony, you had a question earlier.
It was more like a comment in terms of bolstering our numbers. Now, years ago, when I was on the board, we did a mass mailing to all of the tour guides in the city. I understand that the list was no longer available from the city, and now it has been available again. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Oh,
We do not have contact info. The list is on the website, but it doesn't have contact information.
okay.
Patrick Casey, who's the chair of our Government Relations Committee, has been talking to DCWP about getting it. If we're unable to do so, we will file a Freedom of Information request to get all of that information, and then we will use that to solicit more membership.
Good idea.
So, any other questions on my report or thoughts on my report? Yes, Cindy, stand up.
Yes, the thought. Cindy Ladopoulos, okay. My suggestion is, because I've been very down since the orange monster started talking more. Facebook has been really good for me, and GANYC specifically has been good, but also the other tour guides associations, because people are still continuing as business talking about, do you have any sites in mind for this or that? So it's kind of motivating.
Great, thank you for sharing that, appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we are going to move along, and I'm going to call up our treasurer, Sarah Lyons, who has a quick report for the membership. Sarah.
You're not going to hear so much from me in this meeting. I'm going to make this one quick. Mike mentioned that we had an excellent renewal season this year. We really did. And you might be wondering what that means for us financially, what that means in terms of what we can do in our fiscal health, things like that. So I just want to put some numbers on that. As of right now, so we were expecting our income from membership renewal to be around $52,500 in total. That's what we set our budget on. That is our main source of income. That's how we pay for all of the programming that we do. In total, so far, our renewals have brought in $55,950, which is just over $3,000 more than we were expecting, which is excellent. Our last fiscal year was really focused on fiscal responsibility and paring things down and making sure that we build ourselves back up. And we're not saying that we are going to abandon that in any way. This just means that the cushion just got a little bit bigger. So that's an exciting thing that's happened. The other thing that I wanted to mention to everybody today is that during the last board election cycle, one thing that came up in our conversations more often than not was financial transparency throughout the year, not just at our big annual general meetings in September. Now, on that note, oh, that's my bag. I got you. You do it? All right. On that note, committee chairs just this afternoon received a form from me through Wild Apricot. If you haven't, please let me know. That means that our contact information for you is broken. To a survey, which will generate a document where I will be able to share with members online just a snapshot of how we're doing every quarter. This will help the board to better support the things that our committees are doing, make sure that we're addressing everybody's needs. It will also give us a better idea of where we are in our spending and if there's anything that we should look out for, take care of. And most importantly, it means that you as members get to see your membership dues in action. So it's something I'm really excited about. It's something that I know a lot of other people I've spoken to are very excited about. If anybody has any questions about that, do we have time now?
Yes.
We have time now. And also, committee chairs, if you have any questions about that. I know I spoke to a number of you about this as we were developing this program over the course of the last year. I'm happy to address any further questions, especially now that the survey is out. Yeah.
Lisa Buccio.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. So you're talking about giving us updates.
Yes.
And are you actually going to be giving to the committees actuals year-to-date of spending for this current year, as compared to what was on the budget? Because personally, that would be very helpful to have.
Yes and no and sort of. So one of the goals of this program is to make sure that everybody remains aware of committee spending. And I know that some committees have been a little bit more thorough than others in tracking their own spending. The survey does ask how much you've spent in this quarter to date. If that's not something you know, me knowing that you don't know that is a really helpful way for me to know how I can better support the committee. You are meticulous. I have seen your bookkeeping. I'm not worried. But I will also be able to provide that on request. Absolutely. Just knowing that people need that is helpful for me. Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Any other questions for Sarah? Okay, so you will see Sarah a little later in the meeting. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so we are now going to call up our guest speaker, and to introduce our guest speaker, I'd like Lisa. Oh, he's going to introduce himself. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Full crowd, not a lot of oxygen in this room, but nice to see everyone. Anyway, I'm very happy to announce that our guest speaker this evening is Travis Stewart, known by the pen name Travis S.D. Is the former public relations director in New York for the New York Historical Society and an NYU alum. He's also the author of several popular books on the history of show business and the creator of a blog, Travelanche, which contains over 8,500 articles about showbiz and popular culture. He has spoken on related topics at the Museum of Modern Art, Columbia University, and the New York Public Library, and many other institutions from coast to coast. So please join me in thanking and welcoming, thank you, welcoming tonight's guest speaker, Travis Stewart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you put together New York Historical Society and NYU Tisch, you get theater history, and that's kind of my specialty. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, in absentia, David Malkin.
Yes.
He runs the Bowery Alliance Canadians. And very tenacious fellow, community leader and so forth. I'm sure you know that the Bowery has been a cradle of all kinds of American theater. Musical comedy, vaudeville, burlesque, dime museums, melodramas, Yiddish theater, Italian theater, Chinese opera, on and on and on. And so we met years ago, and he drafted me to be one of the contributors to this. If you ever walked the Bowery, he had this project to put all of these sort of very helpful signs and placards in storefronts that kind of tell what used to be there, because ain't nothing there anymore. Just like as a general philosophical thing, New York is kind of about tearing shit down and putting up new stuff constantly, a cycle of that. So what do you usually do? I have one friend who makes a book kind of like this, pictures, and he shows what used to be there. When I show friends around, I just tell them, yes, Catherine.
I was just gonna say, I love those posters, and
Oh, yeah.
I've taken pictures of everyone that I've come across so that I can hold on to it.
Ah, excellent. Okay, well, I wrote two of
And
them.
then it goes into my iPad.
But before that, I wrote this. This is about the history of vaudeville, and I wrote that about 20 years ago, and that's kind of how I got drawn into this in the first place. There's a kind of digital divide of people born before social media and those after. You guys seem to be mostly of my generation. It's not surprising. But I sometimes when I speak to younger crowds, like college kids and so forth, they don't know. Yes, he did. I take for granted certain references and don't realize that I have to explain them sometimes. You know? So just let me know. There's two or three things here, I think, that have fallen out of the common parlance that we all take for granted. Young people might not know at all. Everyone born after the 3 network TV period. So vaudeville, for example, maybe I have to explain to younger people, it was a big nationwide network of theaters, live theaters. All the performers were booked to go around these circuits, usually by train. They were segregated, but basically every major entertainer, black or white, it was very diverse, every nationality, toured these circuits between the 1880s and the 1930s, and not surprisingly, New York City was kind of the centerpiece of the entire industry. For the East Coast, but kind of for the entire big-time vaudeville as well. So that's kind of going to be our focus for this talk. Yeah, so I'm not one of your order. I'm an amateur interloper, but I am what they used to call a pedestrian. We still call walkers pedestrians, but it used to be like a sport, where you walk for 30 miles or 20 miles. I like to do those big, long hikes. And I came up with, I brought some friends and family around and sort of traced the history of New York theater, starting down like at Castle Clinton and going all the way up like 7 miles north. And you could amazingly kind of trace it in one spine. Now, obviously, it's not everything. Some stuff is east, some stuff is west, there's Harlem, there's Coney Island, but you can kind of get from the inception all the way to Times Square and a little bit beyond, all in one hike. So this is a freebie for y'all. This might actually be a book. It might be a book.
We'll throw money.
What else? Yeah, amazingly, the geography and the chronology kind of just match together. The 7 centers I'm proposing are the Old City. I stole that from Philadelphia, right? The Old City or the Old Town, which is the part that's colonial and federalist. It's got the financial district, the seaport, and environs around there. The Bowery, Union Square, Madison Square, Herald Square, Times Square, and beyond. Winding up at Lincoln Square. A lot of squares. And there's not enough time for me to tell you every single spot on that, because it's like over 100 things. So I'm just going to punch a few important points, people and places and stuff like that. What I'm calling the Old City. We're having the NYC 400 this year, 1625 or 1626, I thought.
It's kind of all three.
Yeah, they started settling and then they did the thing with the beads or whatever.
We really did not nail it down.
Yeah. But it was really 70 years after that you hear this kind of first peep about any kind of like performance happening. So it's already English by then. 70 years, 1696, there was a coffee house just south of Trinity Church, where there might have been some amateur performances that happened. Then in 1732, there was some theatrical activity in some second-story rooms at the corner of Maiden and Pearl, all long gone. But if you ever go to Francis Tavern, you can get a real vibe for what that was like. John Street Theaters, often thought of as the birthplace of American theater, that was founded in 1767. So it's not a lot. The population wasn't that great, and at any given time, maybe one venue could serve the entire population of what was then New York. Some of you may have heard of Major Andre, the spy contact for Benedict Arnold. During the war, this theater that I just told you about, the John Street Theater, by the war, the American Revolution, was shut down. They couldn't put on theatricals. So the British troops put on their own amateur theatricals, and Major Andre led those theatricals. I just think that's weird. But the most important place down in this first center is the Park Theater. Not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, I was walking down there and I saw this little lane, like an alley, and it was called Theater Alley. I was like, what the heck is that? We're not near any theaters, and I went and researched it and looked it up, and that was behind where the Park Theater is. It's called that because it's across from City Hall Park. It was built in 1798. Among its many patrons was George Washington. It was huge. It was like what we think of as a Broadway theater. 2,000 seats, very posh. The city's principal playhouse for quite a while, the only one. Something else very important down there, comes a little bit later, is the American Museum, which is located at the corner of, or was located at the corner of Broadway and Ann Streets. Really ought to be a plaque there. There ought to be a lot more plaques in general. But this, of course, is P.T. Barnum's attraction. It's where his freaks and melodrama plays and baleen whales and tanks and clowns and strange artifacts and Fiji mermaid. All of that stuff was here, burned down many times. The last time I think was in like 1865 or 1867. But really, this is kind of like the genesis that informs much of the rest of what we will be talking about, especially the Bowery, which is next. Also, there is a tie-in with that earlier federal period. The collections for the American Museum were started by a man named John Pintard. Does anyone recognize that name? Kind of a lesser known founding father of New York. Founded the New York Historical Society, one of the founders of Tammany Hall, and started the collections that became the collections of the American Museum. Just weird things, paintings, you know, bones, dinosaur bones or whatever. Yes, sir.
Just one question, didn't the Confederates try to burn down that museum?
Yeah, it burned down more than
It
once.
did, but they didn't succeed. The one guy who tried to burn it down got caught by the patriots.
Ah.
And then was hanged out by the government army.
So,
Okay, folks, can we leave the questions till the end?
yeah,
please?
please, yeah.
All right.
This is much later than where we're starting, and I will talk about the Bowery, but I just kind of love this picture. A little fuzzy, but I wanted to use it someplace, and this is kind of, it's obviously after the elevated train. So this toward, basically the Bowery was America's, or New York's, primary entertainment thoroughfare from the late 1820s almost to the end of the 19th century. Because there's so much to say about it, I'm going to say very little about it, except for the fact when I did this, the Bowery is my first little experiment in trying to place where things used to be. Almost every single address on the Bowery used to be some significant, fabulous theatrical venue. Sometimes more than one, sometimes like half a dozen over the years, you know. I'm going to recommend a book by Eric Ferrara. That's my Bible for this. It's called The Bowery, A History of Grit, Graft, and Grandeur. And it breaks it down by address. So you could just organize a walking tour around it very easily. One of the more, so out of the like scores of venues on the Bowery, this is probably the most significant. The Bowery Theater was founded, it's coming up on its bicentennial, about 1826, it was built. And it ended up becoming the principal rival or competition to the Park Theater. And this was like the people's theater, very quickly sort of evolved into being a place for more populous kind of entertainments. It's where the famous Bowery Boys would go and stir a lot of trouble. You know, melodramas were presented with blood and guts, you know, the good parts of Shakespeare, right? The sword fights and whatever, you know, the scary parts. Shows like that. American show business's original sin of blackface minstrelsy started along here. Basically, it's the birthplace of American entertainment. Another significant venue, farther up the street, closer to the end, is what was called Miner's Bowery Theater. Henry Miner was a Tammany Hall politician, former cop, and eventually a congressman. And he started his theater, actually a chain of theaters that were later run by his sons. And this is where the famous hook was invented. Bad vaudeville acts on the stage. And by the way, that's maybe one of the only original, the innards of the building that was Miner's Bowery Theater might still be extant inside the buildings. This is another book I wrote. Ike Rose was another Bowery character who produced shows down there. And one of his acts, we don't say the M word anymore, but this was his most famous act. This is another important impresario. He actually is kind of at the heart of this upward migration of New York entertainment. Tony Pastor started out with Barnum's American Museum when he was just a kid as a singer, and gradually he started singing, and he was reportedly a terrible singer. Started singing in saloons. It would be that thing where they pass out the lyrics and everybody sings along. They still do that, like in Great Britain when they reenact music hall. It's kind of a music hall. Basically, he was a teetotaler, didn't drink, was Catholic. So he didn't really like being in saloons. And the variety entertainment back in the day was really wild, drunken, full of cigar smoke and professional ladies of the evening. And that's what when you went to go see singers and dancers and comedians, you also got all of that. And he hated that. So, and it's the Victorian era, so he wanted to clean it up so that women, respectable middle class women, so to speak, and children could be out. And he worked his way through that. So he started on the Bowery with his original opera house, then moved over to Broadway. This is the original. This is one of his song sheets. Moved over to Broadway, say in the 1860s or so, about where Tisch School of the Arts is now, Lower Broadway. Moved up a little, got it a little more respectable because Broadway was more respectable than the Bowery. And then in 1881, moved to Tammany Hall, where his eventual Tony Pastor's Opera House was. And that was considered kind of the central home, the nostalgic home of vaudeville for many years. He never started a vaudeville chain, but that's where it lived. It was about where, the hospital on Union Square, kind of between the park and Irving Place. And there was a bunch of stuff. That became basically the Times Square of the late 19th century. There was the Academy of Music that was founded just a little bit before this. The Union Square Theater, which then became Keith's Union Square. B.F. Keith ran the whole big-time vaudeville circuit for the whole country, and that became his original flagship right on Union Square. So, and it's different from the Union Square Theater that's there now. Huber's Palace. Have you ever seen the movie House of Wax? It's kind of like that. This is another dime museums throve up and down the Bowery. They're like cheaper versions of Barnum's American Museum, but this is a posher one that was started as part of the Union Square district towards the end of it. So we start moving uptown. A lot of people don't know this, but the site of the original Madison Square Garden, obviously on Madison Square, not where it is now, was started by P.T. Barnum, again, after all of his theaters burned, and the museums burned. Before he started his circus, he leased some ground where the Metropolitan Life building is now, and built a kind of ramshackle hippodrome, what he called it, for spectacles, things like horsemanship, demonstrations and stuff like that. And then some entrepreneurs took it over after him and then built the first Madison Square Garden and then the second. This is in the late, like the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s. The Eden Musée, very much like Madame Tussauds. And then occupied an entire city block on 23rd Street. Coster and Bial's, this is more like a throwback to the Bowery. Is anyone here willing to admit knowing where Billy's Stopless was? Right.
Come on.
So that's a Billy's Stopless, the old topless bar, where about the first Coster and Bial's. And the Coster and Bial's, I forget their first names. They were German Americans. So they like to sell beer at their shows, and so they were against the grain of the Tony Pastor type show. They still had pretty girls who'd sit on your lap and boobs and stuff. Always getting closed down by the city. F.F. Proctor came from upstate New York and crashed. And so there's these big wars between all of the different entrepreneurs and impresarios. Proctor's Fifth Avenue is famous for not being on Fifth Avenue. It was on Broadway and 28th Street. And it's right around the corner from the actual Tin Pan Alley. And among the places, a surprisingly large number of the buildings on what was Tin Pan Alley, the row where they published music back in the day. Most of the buildings are still there. So there's an organization that's trying to get the whole street landmark to make an amazing museum.
Oh, it has that.
Yeah,
Already passed the memo.
yeah, exactly. So, anyone not know what Tin Pan Alley is? It's like a style of music, and it dates to from before the records, really, when people bought sheet music, and lots of people had home pianos, and it's kind of pre-jazz, although jazz informed it back in early 1990s. So we're moving uptown to Herald Square, the second costume y'all. This was where Macy's is. And right across the street, there's a nice big banner that tells you about it. Their backer was a man named Oscar Hammerstein. And he was the grandfather of the famous songwriter. So Oscar Hammerstein made his money in real estate, but he really wanted to be an opera impresario. So once he got enough money from building stuff, he started to build opera houses. And he kind of got his foot in the door of show business by backing Coster and Bjall in this kind of posh, much fancier, much more kind of legit house. Right there, right in the middle of everything. After that, now we're getting to Times Square. Hammerstein, with the money from Coster and Bjall's and his various other enterprises, built this huge, this is the northwest corner of Times Square.
It's 44 to 45.
Yeah. And it's
where the Gap and Old Navy is.
yes, yeah. And it occupies like a whole block. It was 1895 it was built, and it was so huge that it encompassed several other venues within it, several other theaters, and he imported great performers from abroad. There were bowling alleys, I think. Back then they had what were called pleasure palaces, and that sounds dirtier than it is. And this meant a resort where you could have all kinds of fun, basically. It sort of collapsed under its own weight. It was so, he poured so much money into it, it could not make a profit. So just only 3 years later, maybe 2 years later, this place folded. 3 years later, he had opened a new, leaner, meaner theater called the Victoria. And from 1898 to like 1915, it was the prime show place for vaudeville. He didn't have the circuit, but all the top vaudeville performers played there, largely because his son, Willie Hammerstein, was a genius booker. He would book all kinds of crazy acts. The famous Cherry Sisters were famous for being like the worst act in vaudeville. People paid money so that they could throw, stuff at them. But people like Will Rogers performed there. So by this time, a big sort of, as will happen, a big conglomerate starts to form, kind of monopoly. William Morris, who's the founder of the famous agency, started his own opposition circuit. Oops. We're not, okay, that's a little bit out of order. So William Morris started the American Music Hall. This place was right across from where the Port Authority is now.
I'm sorry.
Things have changed quite a lot.
I'm sorry.
And his little heyday was very short because they priced him out. What they did was they made it so the other acts could not perform at this theater, or they would be blackballed from the circuit. So, and back then they would just build fabulous palaces like these and then just tear them down. We just passed over the palace. You probably all know the contemporary gossip about the palace. It's fine, it didn't fall down. It was raised. It was a project of encompassing several years. They had to raise it and they put in retail on the bottom floor and sort of shifted it around. But the actual historical theater is still inside. The palace became the jewel in the crown of the B.F. Keith Vaudeville circuit. That's where everybody performed. Bob Hope, the Marx Brothers, Judy Garland, everybody you can name, and everybody we saw on TV when we were kids and who were older, George Burns, all of those people. And that's who I have to explain to kids, mostly, because they don't know any of those names. Yes.
Was that theater segregated as well?
No, that was not, believe it or not. It's kind of like, it's like its own talk, really. But the theaters in the Bowery back in that day were segregated. Until the end of vaudeville throughout the American South, lots of theaters were segregated, but New York started to integrate after a certain point. Although the acts didn't get, the performers who were black did not get the same, they couldn't go in the same dressing room and stuff like that.
Do you have a question here?
We should wait till the end.
Hold questions still and comments till the end, please.
This Lowe's State was built in 1922, right in the same area, and this was started by the MGM company. But prior to the breakup of the studio, there was a sort of Supreme Court case that broke up movie studios. Oh my gosh, we're at 25 minutes, folks. I'm going to start chugging down the rest of this script. This is called the last vaudeville house because it closed in 1947. So the palace sort of fell prey to the coming of talkies. Lowe's State, the last vaudeville house, sort of fell prey to the coming of television. Here is the palace was part of the Keith Circuit, which got absorbed into Radio Keith Orpheum, which is RKO. And just at the time vaudeville died and the palace winked out, it's almost like the center of gravity moved over to Radio City and that huge, huge theater. Also, I should point out that the radio in RKO was NBC. So that's why also you've got 30 Rock over at Rockefeller Center, it's all part of the same complex. Meanwhile, a few blocks west, right around the corner from us now, actually, we're not far from here, the Ed Sullivan Theater. This was built by Arthur Hammerstein, Willie Hammerstein's brother, Oscar Hammerstein's son. Was originally a theater. CBS got it for radio broadcasts, and then it became where the Ed Sullivan Show, the modern vaudeville, was until 1971. So we're getting fairly close to modern times here. Now, of course, it's where Colbert shoots. And then finally, this is a different kind of thing, but it does tie us back. Big Apple Circus is at Lincoln Center, and back in the Bowery there were circus buildings. That's probably the most populous part of Lincoln Center. The Metropolitan Opera was the primary rival to Oscar Hammerstein's operatic opera. Oscar Hammerstein wanted to bring opera to the people. The Metropolitan Opera, which started in Union Square, by the way, back when that was the real vote, was always the elite organization, and some would argue that it still is. And even the ballet goes back to the Bowery. The ballet, believe it or not, has lots of ties to burlesque and musical comedy and populist art forms that go back to the Bowery. And then there are even parallels between Rockefeller Center and Lincoln Center. They both knocked down neighborhoods to build their art centers, and John D. Rockefeller III was on Lincoln Center's board. Believe it or not, there's stuff north of Lincoln Center. There's the theatrical district used to go all the way, basically, to Columbus Circle. There were theaters going all the way up there. Basically, the Depression and the coming of talkies resulted in the raising of a lot of those theaters, and some become burlesque theaters, and mostly they were just torn down. And then even farther north, up in Harlem, Oscar Hammerstein built opera houses up there, obviously, but it's kind of a different geographic story from this one. So if you have questions that don't get addressed here, like complicated ones, or you're looking for like info, my email is travsd@gmail. Feel free to email me there. And my blog is Travelanche, travsd.wordpress.com.
Okay, we have time for some questions. Do we have any questions for Travis? Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Identify yourself, please.
Sure. Gabby Cox. I was on the phone about a lot of work out there as a tour guide. We chose not to talk about Seaman and Verde, mention the Opera House on the strip.
Yeah.
125. Is that included in your book?
No. Yeah, we can't have them all, but that's
A
it's a
lot
good one.
happened up there, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's its own talk. Its own separate talk.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions for Travis? Yes, Rose.
Rosemary Roach, Mavonian. When you mentioned the sort of Ed Sullivan show, potentially the Carol Burnett show at that time, sort of being the then contemporary, what would you say to help contextualize for younger European people with Disney? What would you say is the current vaudeville? Is there anything?
I tell them, because I get that. I go,
Late
America's Got Talent.
Huh?
That's what I used to.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a
Okay.
variety show.
But I would love to have a debate with you about that.
Go ahead.
But it's funny, so that-
Actually, you know, I actually produce vaudeville shows and stuff. Yeah, so like, there's a burlesque revival. For a while, there was something called the Spiegeltent.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But nothing quite like the Ed Sullivan show.
Just Cindy Ladopoulos again. What I do visually with young people with Vaudeville, when I'm going through Radio City Music Hall, I'm sure you know that. Some of them called medallions, not the big ones on the side, but on 6th Avenue, have vaudeville. You could tell it's vaudeville, the images, because Radio City started as vaudeville. So they kind of get an idea. There's a musician and there's some dancers, but not the dance.
It's music, drama, and dance.
No,
She's talking about the ones on 6th Avenue.
Oh, it's Sixth.
Okay, anyone else? Mike Zuflo.
Tim Van Alley moved uptown, did it not, Travis?
Well, yeah, the Brill Building. Yeah, that's the Brill Building, sort of the heart of it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it did
they
remain there
didn't,
for-
yeah, they didn't really call it Tim Van Alley.
Oh, okay.
But the heart of the music business definitely.
That was a good one. All right, thank you.
Okay, Ian, then Harvey.
Yeah. Hi, Ian Fernandez. So, Trav, thank you so much for your presentation. I want to ask you, as someone who actually is very much interested in pursuing the performing arts as a career, and as someone who's done like musicals, what do you, in your opinion, what do you believe is the single-handedly most influential piece of vaudeville for someone who is like very into making it onto Broadway one day?
Oh, you mean like something to watch, or?
Yes.
Well, they're great movies. You know, like Yankee Doodle Dandy is a great movie. Yankee Doodle Dandy is surprisingly good representation of what vaudeville is like.
Harvey.
Harvey Paul Davidson. I recall the movie theater for the Arching of Keith.
Yeah.
How was that about? Was that part of the vaudeville circuit?
Yeah, what happened is the old circuit, yeah, I touched on that a little bit. The vaudeville circuit got sort of bought up and merged with NBC and HBO, which was a movie studio, and merged and formed RKO. And then a business decision was made by one Joseph Kennedy to sort of kind of kill vaudeville and make those old theaters into movie houses, basically. But there was a sort of transitional time when performers and movies would be on the same bill. You paid a ticket and you'd see the show, and review movies, plus dancing.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. Mason, then Gary, then we do have to move on.
Since I came to New York.
Please identify yourself.
Mason Logan. And I'll just say, I like your thing about the Bowery. And I can go back in time to when I first moved to New York and what the Bowery was like. And I had a friend who was there since the 60s and how it changed.
Yeah.
It's a tour of that.
Oh, interesting. Well, not that I'm not a tour guide, so, yeah, I mean, that would be great, and I would be very surprised if there is.
All right, 2 more. Gary, then Lisa, then we really do have to move along.
Still Gary Dennis. This is a comment. There's a story that there was somebody at MGM. MGM's headquarters was in the Lowe's State Building, because Lowe's owned MGM, right? It was a one-time exhibition-owned production before the breakup in 1946 that he alluded to. This guy from MGM goes to the Palace Theater to see the show. That was like going to that's the Valhalla of Vaudeville, very important place. He saw a dance group, he saw this act, 10 guys in this act. Loved this one guy. Got him a contract at MGM. This guy got it into the contract that if MGM buys Wizard of Oz, he played the Scarecrow. He played the Scarecrow. Very important. Look at that. 1 block here. This is block distance, and history is made. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened, right?
Last one, Lisa, then we do have to move along.
Lisa Buccio. Just a quickie. First of all, thank you, Travis. And it's quite obvious that the presentation he gave us tonight was geared towards this group. Because I have watched other presentations he's given on YouTube, and this was very different. And he particularly tailored this to give us information that we can use on our tours. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
I also would highly recommend reading his book. No applause, just throw money. I knew like jack shit about Vaudeville, okay? And when I connected with Travis, I kindled the book. I didn't get the paperback, and I read it. And it's really a great book. It made me laugh and made me cry. Everything. But luckily it made me laugh more than it made me cry. But it's an excellent book, and anyone who loves vaudeville or doesn't know anything about it, I would really recommend grabbing a hold of it. It's on Kindle, and there's also the paper copy is available. And it's very well written. And I just wanted to pass that on.
Great. How about one more round of applause for Travis? So we're going to keep moving on, my friends. As I mentioned at the top, we are going to have 3 reports now from members who attended the NFTGA conference on stipends from GANYC. And we'll have 3 more next month, 4 more presentations by 3 people next month. So we're going to start with Jonathan Goldstein, who's going to talk about AI for tour guides. And we can try to plug your computer in. We'll see if it works. Might not have the right software.
Yeah. If not, I'm happy to just sort of use it to make reference to it.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
That's no problem.
I think you have to download software. So anyway.
Hi everybody, I am Jonathan Goldstein. I was at the NFTGA conference and I am reporting about AI for tourist guides. The piece was subtitled, How to Use It for Research and Tour Design, Communication with Clients, and to Professionalize and Improve the Business. But the real theme was that we all need to be using AI in our daily lives because one day it is going to replace a lot of what we do. One of the examples that the speaker gave, who was the president of the WFTGA, was Sebastian Frankenberger. He had on the screen an image of a piece by Van Gogh, and he talked into the ChatGPT app, and he said, tell me about this piece, and he basically got an art history lecture about it. And so people are going to be carrying around phones and they're going to have access, and we are going to have to not only use it for our own benefits now, but also change and adapt, because what we do is going to change as technology changes. That was basically the theme. So I'll go through a few basic things of the structure of his talk. He asked, why use AI? You can automate unpleasant tasks, everything from responding to emails, and he copy and pasted an entire client email into ChatGPT. ChatGPT, by the way, you can find it on Google. Just type in ChatGPT, open it up, create a free account, and it's very easy to use. There's a search bar, you can copy. So what he was doing was copy and pasting an entire email into it, and he basically gave the command, answer this email for me, and it came up within 3 seconds with a full reply. Now he had upgraded to the paid version, which is $20 a month, and he had trained it. He's been storing his own information with his prices, with the details of his tours, with the start times and things like that, so that it could all come out. Somebody was asking about how correct AI is with our speaker earlier, and basically it makes all sorts of mistakes. You have to proofread everything at this point in time and make sure it is right. You have to curate it, but it does give you the basics. And basically, you can use it for researching new tours, for creating new tours. If you're thinking of creating a new tour, you could say, give me a tour crossing the Brooklyn Bridge and the area of Dumbo with stops and themes to talk about, and it will produce that in 3 seconds. It was quite remarkable to watch this all happen. And so basically, I think that I will stop my primary thing right there. The most important thing that he was encouraging us to do at the conference is to just get started and play around with it. And if you can't figure out how to make it work for you, you can actually say, you can ask ChatGPT, how can I better use ChatGPT to make it work for me? And it will keep simplifying, and it will keep going over. The example he used was Kit from Knight Rider. So think pre-Baywatch Hasselhoff. That's basically AI. It's your machine best friend, and it will never get annoyed with you. You can just keep on asking, curating, and every week, every day, the technology is improving incredibly rapidly right now, so best to get started as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Do you have any questions for Jonathan? Okay, I will tell you that that was just the tip of the iceberg. We're limited in time what we could do here. I'm sure the written presentation will be more advanced. I will tell you that Sebastian gave this same talk in Sicily last January at the WFTGA convention, and it's remarkable how much the technology has changed and upgraded. So it is constantly changing. Another thing that could be really useful for you is translation. If any of you saw the little video clip that was posted to social media of me being interviewed about the WFTGA, they actually just did that in not in real time, but had it translated into Mandarin, and me speaking in Mandarin was coming out. So in case you're wondering, you heard the extent of my Mandarin at the top of this meeting when I said "Gong Hei Fa Choi," okay? So, it's remarkable the reach of this. It is definitely something we need to be aware of and embrace, and not necessarily be scared of. And ChatGPT is just one part of the AI world out there. One question, then we do have to move on.
This is actually a comment, but I was 50-50 for 2 years. I've been going to as many in-person and Zoom presentations as I can. Sebastian mentioned a lady got business from it. I had asked her not to mention my name. I have done nothing with AI yet, and yet AI brought me business, and they referred GANYC, the link, not my website, the link. They said Cynthia Lazopoulos does La Tour. You can the Finder on, and they had GANYC. So AI advertised for me and for GANYC, and I got a $300 3-hour tour. Without me doing anything.
Great, thank you, Cindy. All right, next up, we're going to call up Vice President Catherine Hill to talk about the very exciting topic of organization management and training.
Just to comment on the AI lecture, it was really amazing, and it was my third time attending an AI lecture. Nistia in Niagara Falls in the spring, and then at SIDA in the summer, and then now. And I can even see the difference in the lectures and how things are advancing so ridiculously fast. And I think I'm finally going to try to embrace it, because I've always been like, no, AI, no. Right? So you're not the only one who's fearful. So I'm not here to talk about AI though. Hold on a second, I lost my... Okay. First of all, the NFTGA conference was amazing. And if you've ever been to any one of those tour guide conferences, it's just, you're in a different place, and you're taken out of your, New York City, and someone else is leading you around and telling you stories, and it was a breath of fresh air, and the old city of Philadelphia is really charming. I had a great time. So as Michael said, I'm Catherine, co-vice president of GANYC. It was really a delight. I learned so many fascinating stories and visited numerous sites in the historic city they call Old City. So, Gary, we've got some competition because they kept talking about it's where it all happened.
They're wrong.
Well, they do claim a lot of firsts,
And you got to step outside.
So the conference agenda included tours, lectures, and took place in the City Hall, which was beautiful, and the American Revolutionary Museum. About 100 of us attended from all over, even the Tour Guide Association from Salt Lake, who was promoting 2027, as Michael mentioned. All in all, NFTGA put on an informative conference with interesting speakers covering very current topics. So I would like to thank the Industry Relations Committee for offering stipends. I highly recommend you take advantage of them. To GANYC members to attend this conference. It was a great experience for me personally. So as part of our agreement, I'm here to talk about one lecture that I attended. I attended all of them. Organization Management and Training. It's a mouthful, just that. And I feel like she didn't even tip the iceberg, but it also prompted me to start thinking about what I didn't hear and what what we can do as GANYC members. So the talk offered a few good learning insights about guides associations. Now she was in a different, completely different situation. She's with I should have mentioned, it's Mercine Florio. She's the president of Boston, Maine, and New Hampshire. So that already, they have a unique geographical challenge in getting people to get into the membership and stay involved. The way Ms. Marine approached her talk was by identifying what factors make an effective organization. So specifically 3 elements: structure, policies, and most importantly, the people, us. Without the people, without the members, without people who are engaged, we don't really have an active association. So right off the bat, the way she suggested electing officers to oversee the overarching mission, followed by forming teams. And I'm thinking, teams, committees that we have to carry out the various goals of the association. She noted that leadership needs to inspire members to want to donate their time to get things done for the betterment of the association and the profession. So sitting there listening to all this, and she's talking about how to set up an organization and procedures and committees and a board and all of the officers, I'm like, we got that. So there was a sense of pride while I was sitting there. We've got that. We have a strong structure in place. We have focus committees with specific goals. We have great people who contribute and volunteer, and we have policies, procedures, and code of ethics. So to be perfectly honest, by contract, of what was, when she was approaching a failed and risky situation of low attendance, high attrition. It was necessary for her to, start thinking about really how to revive this
Got about
organization.
30 seconds left.
Oh, okay. So, second, let's see, each panel, okay, so one of her suggestions I thought was interesting is to form a panelist event where a certain number of people go home and pick a certain subject and then come back. And for the panelist discussion, each one talks about a different part of history. Because we all know we tell stories differently. And so I thought that was really interesting. So she said, thinking of things with a big picture in mind. So anyway, as someone from the GANYC board, I was proud. Let's see. Well, anyway, I think it's important to just keep reminding ourselves that, as what Michael always says, what we put into GANYC, we give back. And so join a committee, tell your friends about GANYC. We need to expand our membership. Remember, our goal this year is 400, and create a tour. So anyway, I think we're already on the right way. There's always room for
Any questions for Catherine? Yes, Harvey.
I remember the Boston Chapter Association only had like one member or two members. So is this relatively new that you have to do?
Yeah, I mean, she was basically talking about how they were in a very bad situation and how she kind of revitalized the whole thing. We're all gonna just quit, or we're gonna have to build this thing from the ground up.
So how many members do they have now?
That's a question for the NFTGA. We don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. We do have to move on. Thank you very much, Catherine. Appreciate that. I will say, we pre-assigned these topics, and we asked Catherine to take this topic because we thought it would have some relevance to how the board works and the different committees and things like that. It was a little rudimentary, so Catherine's report kind of reflects that a little bit, but in any event, you did a great job with the information you were given, so thank you, Catherine. Next up, we're going to call up PR Chair and former Treasurer Jeremy Wilcox to talk about the WFTGA, and it's written wrong on the agenda. It's 2026, not 2025. So, Jeremy.
And I just add, the written report that will be online has some photos of the slides and things of that nature. So, on Thursday, January 30th, following lunch inside City Hall, WFTGA President Sebastian Frankenberger gave a presentation on the upcoming WFTGA conference about a year from now in, I'm gonna make sure I get this pronunciation correct, Fukuoka, Japan. Fukuoka, Japan, okay. I knew I was gonna butcher the pronunciation, I practiced it. Thank you. So I do have a little map here that I'm gonna show you in case you can see it for where it is, because I think people may not be familiar with the geography. You can see it's in southern Japan, so it's not close to like the major tourism cities like Kyoto or Tokyo. It is in the south there, sort of in between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which they will have tours to. So they hold this, so for those of you who have never been to a WFTGA conference, it's probably most of you, they hold, like the NFTGA, their conferences every 2 years. There was a switch after COVID, so the NFTGA, they're in the odd number years, WFTGA in the even number years. And so their next one is going to be in Japan. And so in his presentation, Sebastian discussed how under his leadership, just an aside, the WFTGA intends to focus more on standards for guiding skills and considering how associations will be connected to that organization. He kept leaning into that. I thought it was a very kind of fascinating concept. It seems to be a very key concern for him in sort of creating a global standard, which obviously is very hard when you have an organization where there's membership from 50 countries and different cultures and things of that nature. He also mentioned that he had recently visited with the Japanese Ministry of Tourism over there to discuss the convention and how they could work with tours, as well as meeting with Japanese officials and diplomats in Washington, D.C. on a recent visit there. So in addition to the main conference, there's going to be a pre-program tour to North Kyushu, and then a post-program tour, which will occur before the Chinese New Year to try and get in before the big crowds to Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and Kyoto, with the possibility they're thinking of a 3-day add-on for Tokyo as well, if people want to do that. So some of the panels and topics that he mentioned would include tour pricing, sustainable tourism, storytelling, and also effective communication, protocols for guiding VIPs and diplomats, and his obviously favorite topic, AI technology, and how it can be integrated into our work. Also wanted to mention, he mentioned the possibility of some virtual tours and presentations as well. So maybe the possibility for people who can't be there in person to have access to some of those things. And there would obviously be a different fee for that. The schedule and pricing is sort of in flux. Like I said, my report will have some of the pictures of the slides. The plan is that registration will go live like late March, but he said probably more likely early to mid-April. And one reason that GANYC members should consider going, by the way, is GANYC has sent representatives to this convention, at least one or two, going back many years. Some of the people recently went to the one in Sicily, Tbilisi, Georgia, Tehran and Iran, and Prague. I know Michael attended the one in Prague on our behalf, as well as some other members. And obviously, much like the NFTGA one, networking and learning are very key, but a big reason to consider showing up is that GANYC has a presence there. Particularly for the WFTGA, it is a global organization. We have a much bigger presence at the NFTGA due to the smaller national scale. At this, it's important. One thing that came up in Sebastian's presentation, which I don't think will be changing anytime soon under the current circumstances, is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the United States of America has never hosted this conference. I believe it was held in North America once in Montreal, up in Quebec. So while I do not think we'll be hosting it anytime soon, it is important for the United States and New York in particular to have a presence at that convention. And just want to go back to my notes about the some of the scheduling. So the main trunk of the actual convention will be February 8th through the 13th. Though I said there is going to be pre-tours the days before that and pre-tours in the days after that as well. And the pricing is still in flux. Like I said, it will be up on their website in late March or early April. But the prices will depend on where you're staying, which of the hotels you're staying there, whether you're going by yourself, you're bringing someone, and whether you're a delegate, things of that nature. Any,
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy?
I just want to mention that New York bid on the convention back several years ago.
Yes.
At the time, I saw a video with complete, everyone in the audience was playing New York was up and dancing and singing. I mean, we thought we had the vote. The next day, President Trump mentioned something terrible about Iran, and of course, everyone voted.
He announced the Muslim ban. He came before they were supposed to vote on it. He announced the Muslim ban.
Yeah. So we lost the vote, but we did. New York did attempt to have it here.
Yeah. And I just as an aside, I have no doubt at some point we will host it here, whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, or 50. Inevitable.
Yeah. Michael Dillinger. One of the reasons to have a presence here, especially again, one of the things that Sebastian's been talking about for the future of World Fed is to eliminate the designation of countries so that associations will be recognized as eligible to be members of the World Fed. So we want to be recognized. GANYC has been a member of World Fed since before there was a national federation. Okay? We're one of the oldest associations in the U.S. We should definitely have a presence in these things. So save your pennies. Start working on a plan now. It's going to be awesome. I want to do it all.
Yes, as Michael said, New York has its own, GANYC has its own membership in the WFTGA, as does the DC Guild. But we don't have a vote in its delegates meeting. Every country just gets one vote. So last year in Sicily, I was whispering in Michael's ear what he should do, and he didn't really listen to me. But that's cool. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Jim had the other ear.
Yeah, well, you should know your bread is butter. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No. I will add one thing that Jeremy, it's probably in his written report. Registration is going to open late March, early April. They are anticipating it's going to be sold out by June. Wow. So, start making plans. This will be under the next budget cycle for GANYC. So there are no specific plans for stipends as of yet, but considering that our finances are looking pretty good, I would imagine that the board will probably look to put stipends in, but you will likely have to make commitment to go to the conference before stipends are decided. So it's just how the calendar worked out. So, okay, thank you, Jeremy. We are running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to ask all of our committee chairs to be as quick as possible. And we're going to call up Sarah Lyons from the awards committee to start.
All right, really quick. Tickets are on sale. You know that. You got the email. Buy them. It's going to be a good time. If you're wondering why it's going to be a good time, a number of you have met Debbie Applegate. She's going to be presenting at the awards. Also, Emmy Award-winning journalist and rising star at 1010 Wins, Mary Lynn Buckley, will be presenting, and you're going to want to know her and get in on the ground floor. We will also have several of our members presenting, but we'll have the full list for you later. That's not a now problem. Also, there is a sale going on right now for ads. We are going to be putting out our digital program this year. Ad sales are available. Go on Wild Apricot, GANYC.wildapricot.org. If anybody is confused about this, you shouldn't be. You all renewed. /sponsorship. That is where you buy ads for our program. There's a new thing that we are doing this year. There will be an optional $75 add-on for anyone who wants to have their ad built for them by the awards committee. Once again, if you buy an ad, we will be very happy to have you. If you want us to build your ad, there is going to be an extra fee to make that possible. That is a new thing this year. Anyone with questions, email me, awards@GANYC.org. And finally, we need you. We need your help with something, my friend. For those unfamiliar, at every award ceremony, there is a reception beforehand. And at that reception, we eat, we drink, we be merry. And the more help we get with this, the more you get to eat and the more exciting things you get to eat. This is a night about, so we usually celebrate guides, and we are celebrating guides in this evening, but this is an evening we also use to have GANYC celebrate the people in the city that make our job so exciting and connect us to all of that. That includes the food vendors at the gala. So please, if you are a food tour guide, or if you are a person who enjoys eating, and I hope you are, who has a vendor that you think might be interested in contributing to this event, please let us know. I will be one of the last people out of the room. I'll be standing not indoor swing range, but very close to the door. I'll have a notepad, I'll have my phone. Tell me your food. You don't have to do anything except give me or Susan Birnbaum contact information. That is all you gotta do. Make it easy for you. Yeah. And if anybody has questions, we don't have time for that, right?
We can answer one or two
Email
questions.
me if you have a long question.
What is the date of the award ceremony?
Monday, March 3rd.
Okay.
Monday, March 3rd.
And where is it?
At Merkin Hall. Check your emails.
Okay, we have time for one question. Does anybody have questions for Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah. Come on down.
Yes, so we're on our 51st year. We're celebrating the 400. And education, I always am obnoxious and read all these names. Bob Gilbert.
You don't have to.
Anyway, he's winning our GANYC Guiding Spirit Award. You can see by all the programming why he's getting it this year. So coming up, we have a thank you of past tours too. Woolworth Building and Greenwood Cemetery toast, and that with craft cocktails. Jeremy Wilcox organized that, part of the committee. And coming up, upcoming GANYC events, and we have a synergy between committees, industry relations, education. So I will reiterate some of the things. U.S. Army Garrison Fort Hamilton is coming up tomorrow, despite inclement weather. It's still going on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And that you're going to have a tour of Fort Hamilton, and that was organized by George Tonkin. February 7th, National Lighthouse Museum organized by Bob Gilbert. Who else? Webinar Buried Beneath the City. You heard about that. And that is going to be on the 10th. That webinar is going to be an archaeological history of New York with Nan Rothschild and Arthur Bancroft, and Lisa put that all together. A curated experience at John's Pizzas and Hershey's Chocolate World. Harvey Davidson Industry Relations, of course. And February 25th, Bam Fam, exploring the Brooklyn Academy of Music with our board liaison, Lee Hallingby. March 6th, a webinar, Kelly and Trico, A Life in New Amsterdam, and March 10th, FAM, Banksy Museum, Bob Gilbert organized that. So really a wonderful March and February. We have any webinar we do, you can get most of the time online after we do it, so if you miss it, you can That's one of the benefits of membership. And I guess it's going to be a short one. So one more thing, for inclement weather, there was some concern. Anytime we do it by locale, some of you commute in from New Jersey, and it's up to the locale. It's in Brooklyn. If it's stormy and awful in New Jersey, it's up to the venue in Brooklyn whether they cancel or not. You know, so we're going on strong tomorrow for that fam tour. So thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Okay, next up, Bob Gilbert, Industry Relations Committee.
I'm going to cut this all down. I'm not going to read most of it. You can read it, you go online. But for the John's Pizzeria and Hershey's Chocolate World, we still have 2 spaces. It allowed us 50 people, and we have not gone beyond 48. So if any of you could make it February 13th, you still can join. And also for Friday's National Lighthouse Museum in Staten Island, they gave us 50 spaces. We have 14 people. So if there are 36 of you who are not working or anything and want to take a ferry ride at noon to Staten Island, please join us. And the March meeting will be at MoCA, Museum of Chinese in America. They have graciously hosted us 3 times before. They've asked us back again. They're giving us our guest speaker, so we're thrilled to be there. And that's it. If you want to hear anything else I have to say, you have to come to the GANYC Apple Awards on March 3rd. You're going to get my apple.
By the way, I said I wanted everybody to the committee reports to truncate their verbal reports. Written reports are in the minutes and are posted to the document section of the website. So if you want more information, more extensive information, please check that out once the minutes are posted. Okay. So just 2 more reports to go. Next up, the membership committee, pinch hitting for Ann McDermott, is Jeremy Wilcox. And we also have Rose Srivastava, who's going to talk a little bit as well.
So I'm just going to give the highlights due to time. So thank you to all of our new members. For anyone who joined after our last new member orientation, we do have another one coming up on April 4th at Pier 57. That's up on the calendar right now. We also have, this will be formally announced, coming up in about 6 weeks, we're going to have another networking happy hour at Jasmine's, which is an industry partner Caribbean restaurant. So that's going to be very good. I also want to thank Robert, there he is, who organized, so we've been doing these after meeting sort of social get-togethers, obviously totally optional, but it's a great chance to network with fellow members. That's actually going to be downstairs at the Cuban restaurant that's right downstairs, and that was organized by Robert, so thank you to Robert for that. And I don't believe that Maggie Brown is here, but she organized the new member event that's going to be in April at Pier 57. So last thing I want to do is I'm going to turn it over to Ro, who is on our membership committee, who's going to talk about an older membership initiative that's going to be brought back later this year.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Rose Srivastava here. I'd like to announce, or pre-announce really, the revival of the mentorship program for GANYC. So this is going to be an opportunity to connect mentors with some experience at GANYC with mentees who are a little bit newer. This is in order to support and retain new members. So we would like to attract some mentors. I'd like people who are experienced to think about mentoring someone, open up your network within GANYC, within the industry, provide some information. I want people who are new to think about coming in as mentees. I want you, if you're coming in as a mentee, come in as an active participant in this relationship. Don't just say, fill me with knowledge. Come in with real questions, take action on things that are suggested. It should be about a 6-month commitment, and I'm hoping to get 5 pairs for the kickoff cohort. We'll get the material posted before the next meeting, and I will hope that we can get a little more time to talk about details and things like that at that point, and then we hope to make decisions and get this kicked off.
Okay, do we have any questions for Ro or for Jeremy? Yes, Ian.
Yeah, hi, Ian Fernandez. Is there any cost for this mentor-mentee program?
We do not anticipate that, no.
No. So this, I know, like the last time we did this a couple years ago, Jared Goldstein is here, volunteered as a mentor. So they would not be compensated. It would not cost you anything. It would just be a perk of membership. Like almost everything in GANYC, it's volunteers doing stuff for the benefit of their peers.
That said, if you have participated in the mentor program before with GANYC and you have some feedback or suggestion for me, please send it through the membership at GANYC.org.
Yes.
And so we can review that. But we'll be taking as much feedback as we can into consideration. Already gotten some in the membership.
That's great.
All right.
Okay, thank you
so
both.
much.
We have so many new members and so many new people in the industry that it's wonderful that the committee is bringing this back, and I look forward to hearing more about it, and hopefully it'll become a robust and continuing part of the GANYC experience. So, last committee report, NYC 400, Mr. Gary Dennis.
All right, just so I keep it kosher. All right. And by the way, that was Hebrew that Michael was speaking at the beginning of the meeting, not Mandarin. All right. Just briefly. Sorry. Catherine Hill gave me the greatest compliment. She said, "You didn't fuck it up last time." So that was the greatest. Thank you, Catherine. It means a lot to me. But we have gotten no responses from the membership about, I'm finding me, don't worry about it, Bob Kilber. All right, anyway, we have gotten no responses from the membership about anything about these tours that I mentioned, about presenting them to Manhattan Borough President and getting them on board with sponsoring us on their website, mentioning us on their website, and in their newsletters. This is what the Guide Association of New York is offering. So that, if you have something, there's nothing that's crazy. There's nothing that's bad. Any idea for a tour related to NYC 400 or not? A movie tour, whatever you want, offer it. All right, I'll make it work. No, that's number one. Number two, I think if this is okay with you, I'm going to send out a blast to everybody what the pin finally looks like, because it underwent a design change. Thank you, Catherine. All right, the name GANYC is on there somewhere, but it's there. All right, so GANYC is on the pin, which is the size of the 1970 subway token, like this one here. All right, there it's in here somewhere. But the point is, there it is. It's this big. All right, and it does say good for foreign ears, and right in there in the Y, it does say GANYC. All right, so there is our name. We're looking to sell them for, I am going to sell them for $5 each. Some will be given away to certain people. Some will be sold for more, all right, to other people, all right? So, it's a thing, all right? So,
dynamic pricing.
That's right, there you go. It's surge pricing at its best. But that's all I really have to say. I just, our last committee meeting was the day before the last meeting. So that's when all this came into being. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun on this, but I ran into somebody on the street who's a member of the how do you say Growlers Club? What he said club, say it with that, Bob. That's Bob Gelber. That's why he is who he is. All right. Growler Club is offered a tour of an exhibit that hasn't opened yet. I want to tie it into NYC 400. That is my plan. All right. So it's kind of like between your committee and my committee, what this is. This is like what you were saying about the synergy between committees. This is going to happen. This will be a great thing. It's called Wish You Were Here. It's about guidebooks and maps of the city of New York all throughout history. So, yeah, it's good. Wow is right. And it's free exhibit, too, even better. So that's going to have, hopefully, we're going to tie in with that in some way. From his committee and my committee. All right. And then we're going to fight it out in the park. But there you go. So that's it. So you have a tour idea. NYC400@GANYC.org. That's the website. I'm sorry, the email address. And I'm done. There you go.
Question, you have mentioned these tours in this meeting. Has this been blasted out to the membership?
No, you're right, it hasn't been. So in that blast with the picture of what this pin will look like that we're going to sell for $5 a pop, no mail order, nothing like that, cash in hand, that's how it's going to be. And then give it to Sarah, and then we're going to put it in the bank. Right, Sarah? There you go. And then, just verifying, all right, just verifying. All right, you never know with these people. All right, so the point is that I'm going to put that in the email. You know, please, if you have a tour that just an hour, hour and a half, it doesn't have to be a full-blown 2-hour, 4-hour tour, something short. Great if it's 2 hours, that's fine, all right? But the city used to do this through the Office of Media and TV and Film. They used to sponsor tours, and they stopped doing it because it was the pandemic, but the rock and roll history tours that they were doing, that I did for them, it was great money, and now it's gone. So this is going to be free though, so it's not great money. So
we're volunteering the tour?
it's volunteering. It's all part of NYC 400.
Okay, so we just volunteer.
Yeah, just send me your information. NYC400@GANYC.org. Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gary. Yes, Susan.
Yeah, I just want to make an additional pitch. If anyone has any contact with food, people who you would like to let me, I will be happy to get in touch with them. We need food for the event.
The awards.
The awards, yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Jeremy.
Just actually forgot to mention when I was up front, when I came in, all these chairs were up against the wall, so I think we're somewhat expected to leave them back there. So no worries, but if you could fold up your chair and put it on either side of the piano when you leave, all good.
Okay. Any other business, my friends? Okay, so 2 quick things before we entertain a motion to adjourn. As Jeremy said, downstairs in Guantanamera, if anybody wants to grab food and drink together. Our next membership meeting is Wednesday, March 5th at the Museum of Chinese in America downtown. So,
And that's 2 days after.
that is 2 days after the awards show. Yes, the awards is on March 3rd. The meeting is on March 5th.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.